Release the Cragle!
And welcome, everybody. This is Unleash the Cragle. I am your host, Jonathan Cragle. Thank you for being here again for episode 5 of this season, this very first season. I was out of town last week, and I didn't take my gear with me to podcast. I was there to visit family, but also I was there for a funeral. I'm very glad to be home in the state of Washington, where it is about 30 degrees cooler than it was in Texas, where I was visiting. I'm glad to be with you. I'm hoping that you're doing great. Today, I want to do a episode to make up for the Monday motivation episode that I did not do, and we will have an interview next Wednesday, our first interview. I'm really excited about our guest. I'll keep it a secret for now, but I know you'll want to definitely tune in. So today I want to talk about another topic of motivation, but it's more a block to motivation, something that keeps us from moving forward in our dreams, our life, our goals. And it's a disease that I would say is one of the most prevalent diseases that not just in America, not just in the United States or Canada, but really throughout the world, it just really has festered for decades and decades. So before I tell you what this disease is, let me just read a quote from Florence Nightingale. "I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took an excuse." So that gives you a little bit of a clue about what we're going to talk about here. In 1983, my oldest brother gave me a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. It was first published in 1959, and in that book, Dr. Schwartz coined a term, Excusitis. That was from the root word excuse. And he defined that term, Excusitis, as the disease of the failures. He specifically said in his book, quote, "Every failure has this disease in its advanced form, and most average people have at least a mild case of it." So I'm going to read a few statements and think about this in your own life. "I have no formal education. My health isn't good enough. I had a bad childhood. I'm too short, or I'm too tall. I'm never a lucky person. I'm too old, or I'm too young. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I don't have the time." These are just some of the examples that we hear from people who suffer from excusitis. The reality is that excusitis knows no social, racial, or economic barriers. It permeates the wealthy and the poor, the educated and uneducated, male and female alike. It is without doubt the most destructive ailment afflicting the world. It costs more money, relationships, opportunity, trust, and growth than any other disease in the world. What's truly sad about this disease is that each of us has the ability within ourselves and with help to eradicate it. We spend time and energy calling others out on their excuses, but little or no time on our own. So it may seem dour, it may seem depressing, and in your own life you can think about times you used excuses or had excusitis moments. You were in the middle of a project and you couldn't get it done, and you made an excuse. It was too hard. I needed more help. I didn't have enough information. Maybe you were in a sporting event where I see it a lot, and in my own life it infiltrated my golf game, basketball, football, so on. I was unlucky. The other player got breaks. The other player was fortunate to get the bounces they got. The other team got all the calls from the referees. and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So the first encouraging moment I want you to know is that while it will take work, perhaps lots of it, the first step to this cure is to begin catching yourself when you start to make an excuse. The first step in change in any situation is to acknowledge the issue. So the first step for you and for all of us to overcome excusitis is to acknowledge your excusitis and begin to live by not making them. But it's going to take time. You will continue to make excuses. But when you catch yourself, stop, pause, correct yourself, and then move forward. We're seeking progress, not perfection. If we will commit to reducing and in getting rid of the excuses in our own lives, it will have a greater impact than perhaps anything that will change not only us and our lives, but those around us. So I want you to think for a few minutes here. You can pause the recording, a little homework. I want you to pause this right now, and I want you to take 5 or so minutes, and I want you to think about the excuses you make for yourself. 5 minutes. Write them down. You've got a piece of paper, hopefully, if you got your Unleash the Cragle pad handy. Good heavens, I should sell some of those, shouldn't I? Anyway, you can just grab a piece of paper or think about them, but really take the time for 5 to 7 minutes to think about the excuses you make in your life. A lot of them will be common, but there will be unique ones to you that you make. So take the time to think about the excuses you make, write them down, be honest, because again, acknowledging this is the first step to change and positive change. So pause now, and I'll see you back here. Okay, welcome back. Now that you have this list, do you see certain situations or times that you make excuses? Is there a common pattern? Is it work-related, relationship-related, sports? Is it when you don't want to look foolish or look, like you're less than? What exactly triggers your excuses? For some people, it could be just simply the fact that it's just a habit to make an excuse when you do anything but less than a successful performance. If you don't do well in a game or don't do well in a class or school or whatever, if your first thought or first process is to make an excuse, you likely have excusitis. The third item I want you to think about is think about how you feel when people give excuses to you. Does that make you mad, sad, angry, or do you even care? Now, do you think that people feel the same way about when you give excuses? 4, close your eyes for about 10 minutes each day and just see yourself living a free, happy, and excuse-free life. Let yourself feel the relaxation and tension-free feelings flowing through you. Just this daily meditation and calming thoughts will drive you to not make any more excuses. You'll want to live in the freedom of the truth and getting things done. And finally, go to Amazon and buy a copy of David Schwartz's book called The Magic of Thinking Big. But wait until you finish the podcast here, and then head out and go buy the book. There may be a few stories in that book that seem a bit dated, but the raw truth that flows through the entire book will pack a powerful punch. It'll really hit you, and if you'll take it to heart and change, it will change your life, and you will become more persistent, more powerful, a better performer, because you won't make excuses. Instead, you'll seek to perform well. So I think the thing to think about here is not getting sucked into the path of destruction that excusitis leads to. Don't make excuses for why you can't do something or something didn't get done or any number of things, but instead simply get them done. And if you can, make progress on it and start again tomorrow. What we don't want to do is have excusitis also push away those we love. If we're on a schedule that is inflexible, then it will lead to frustration and other ailments, other issues in your relationship and in relationships in general. So when we talk about excusitis, I think of so many situations. I think of a time when I played golf and I would make excuses for why I couldn't score well. It was the weather. It was people doing distracting things. It was unlucky. It was anything but the reality that I didn't play well. I was distracted. It was just one of those days. Anything that would simply be gracious and say, well done to those who did well, and I'll do better, or I'll work harder and try again next time. It would have been more freeing for me as an athlete and as a person, since the excuses didn't really salve or heal the disappointment I had. So in your own life, think about this. How can you implement not making excuses? Could you have an excuse jar? Being a Navy vet, and I've seen it in other places, not just the military, but they have a swear jar. Every time you swear, you throw in a quarter, 50 cents, $1, $5, whatever you set up. Well, how about an excuse jar? Every time you make an excuse, rather than facing the reality of a situation, you put in a quarter, 50 cents, $1. What I think you'll find is once you hit your pocketbook, you'll find that you will stop making excuses, and instead you can take that energy and apply it towards solutions to fix whatever it was that caused the less than stellar performance. That's a better use of our time, energy, and focus. So create yourself an excuse jar. Another tip is to get accountable with someone. Hold them accountable. Talk to them about their excuses about stuff and your excuses about things. And meet up to support one another in the process of not making excuses. Another thing that helps is to read books about positive thinking athletes or mentors. And what you'll find, maybe at some point in their life they made excuses, but they're no nonsense, and they accept responsibility and accountability for their mistakes, but they're always also seeking to not make the mistake again or to minimize the chance of making a mistake. So that's another aspect of your life, is to realize that no one is going to be perfect, but what we can do is continue to get better. And excuses always come up as a protection mechanism. Perhaps you were teased when you were younger if you didn't do well, like I was, or maybe you can't accept that you're not the best or top or whatever. Well, the reality is we need to face the reality of where we are. We need to face the current situation as it stands and then apply good understanding and decision making for what's next. So let's make this the start of an excusitis free area. Our area is an excuse free area. We'll start living accountable, focused, and without any sort of disappointment or regret from making excuses. Instead, we'll deal in the truth and the reality of the situation and seek to make it better. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps. I hope that understanding that everyone makes excuses, people around us understand and see the excuses, but what we really need to be doing is acknowledging the situation, whatever that is, acknowledge the disappointment, and then come up with a plan for how to move forward without any sort of excuse. Well, that'll do it for now. I hope you have a great day today. I hope that you're able to be successful and focused, and that most importantly, you will love your family, love your spouse or significant other, your children, your grandchildren, and so forth. This is Unleash the Cragle. I will be back with another episode soon, but please take care of yourself, take care of others, bring a positive focus without excuse to your world. And when at all possible, when you see people who are homeless or in need, please be kind. Thank you again, and this is Unleash the Cragle. Take care all.